This is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. It says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh by Yashem, Yahweh Shai by Yashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and peace and salutation unto the hopeful elect, the 1/3 of Yashar Allah, upholding the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of their ability. Peace and salutation. This is the brother Bakwasha. And really, I just want to go into these end time prophecies, man. You know, the things that Yahweh Shai have declared from the very beginning of time. And these things are being manifest. As a matter of fact, let's just grab that real quick, because this is all just a part of prophecy. Okay. And here in the book of Isaiah 46 in verse 10, it says, declaring the end from the beginning. And so Babylon, aka America, Esau, the so-called white man, these other heathen nations, 2/3 of our people were never written, okay, to continue on this side forever. Okay. There was going to be an end of this world, or there was going to be an end of this rulership, and there was going to be the restoration. There was going to be the restoration of Yashar Allah. Okay. And this is everything that the prophets of old have been longing for. Okay. Matter of fact, let's see. This is this is Act chapter 1 verse 6. It says it says, when they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? And we'll grab this word here, restore, because that is what the declaration, okay, of prophecy ultimately was going to fall back into the hands of, which the kingdom was always established for Israel. Okay, it was never established. The eternal kingdom. Let me be more specific. The eternal kingdom was never designated for anyone other than the children of Israel. Okay, beginning with the elect of the nation of Israel. Okay, it says to restore to its former state, to be in its former state. All right, to reconstitute in health, home. Okay, like when you go home. You know, obviously here on this side, these homes are not our home. But when we go back to our homeland, it is going to be healthy. When you go back home, there is a sense of oneness. Okay. You know, we've been scattered throughout the four corners of the globe to live in these foreign lands, to where when Yahweh Shai return, okay, to restore the kingdom unto Israel, it is going to bring us back to full health and to full strength. You know, scripture talks about go back to the it's in Galatians. I think it's the land of our Salak. Let me see if I can pull this up. I think it's in Galatians 4 or 5. But it talks about the land that bore us. Okay, here we go. This is Galatians chapter 4, verse 26. It says, but Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. And so going back to our homeland, going back to our former state, going back to, that land in which we were born from, okay, will give us restoration. All right. But that restoration is only going to come through prophecy. Okay. And the downfall of this wicked kingdom. All right. This is back in Acts chapter 1, verse 6. It says, when they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? Okay. Because that kingdom was only for the children of Israel. So these are the things that are being declared from the beginning. Okay. That the kingdom of eternal righteousness was only for the children of Israel, which is the reason why that kingdom can only be restored to the former state of those that actually had it. Okay. So this is back in Isaiah 46 and 10, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times, the things that are not yet done, which is the end in which we're in right now. It says the things that are not yet done, saying my counsel shall stand and I will do all my pleasure. And that's exactly what's happening. Esau doesn't have any dog in the fight. Okay. The deceived and the deceiver are his. We're all programs of Yahweh Hawashai's prophecy. Okay. And so this is back in Habakkuk 2 and 3. For the vision, is yet for an appointed time. And that vision in itself is prophecy. Okay. The words that were written to come to pass in the latter days in which we're experiencing now. Okay. It says, but at the end it shall speak and not lie, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Okay. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 8. It says, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. So it is better that this place be destroyed than it continue forever in unrighteousness. Okay. Let's bring this out. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse. Let's start at 7. It says, then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first? Okay, the end of the first and the beginning of that, and the beginning of it that followeth. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. Jacob being so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay, likewise, Abraham and Isaac being you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Now, Esau being the Edomites, okay, the so-called white people, okay, because there's no term such as white. There's no term such as black, okay. These are all social constructs that have been created in the minds of the people by the wicked to have them not know nationality, okay, which is another form of them being the wicked, okay, creating these religions, the Christianity, all of this stuff was to prevent prophecy from being fulfilled. But we're at the end, okay, and as the scripture is going to say, well, actually, we just read it. Okay, it says, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. So everything that was a lie, okay, that was told by Esau, the so-called white man, okay, is now speaking. And he cannot defeat the truth. Scripture says, matter of fact, let's grab that real quick. This is 1 John chapter 2, verse 21. It says, I have not written unto you because ye know not the truth, but because ye know it, and that no lie is of the truth. Okay, so when the scripture says at the end it shall speak and not lie, that's the truth speaking, that Esau, the so-called white man, is going to be destroyed and he's going to be taken out of his power seat. Okay, and there's nothing that he can do about it. All right, so back in 2nd Ezra 6:8, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. Okay, representing verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world. So when you hold on someone's heel, okay, because the first came out red and hairy all over like a garment, okay, that's Esau, which obviously you can see he's the cave dweller, the caveman of today, okay, red in pigmentation because his blood shows through his skin, hairy all over because he's more like a dog than he is a human. But anyway, it says Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. So the first came out red and hairy all over, and then Jacob came. Okay, but that hand on the heel represented prophecy of the end of Esau's kingdom. Okay, it says, for Esau is the end of the world. So Jacob pulling down Esau. Okay, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it. Okay, and really that in itself is why the end is being made manifest. Okay, that's why prophecies are speaking and not lying. Okay, everything that was written in the book. Okay, this third woe, the RFID, micro CHIP, the Charagma, right? This digital age literally converting to where all of these systems can be in place to track and monitor and survey, people. There's no more physical dollar or currency. It's all digital. Okay. So all of these things are showing that this is the end of Esau's world, man. Okay. And on the other end, on the other side of the end of Esau's world is the beginning of it that follow it for Jacob, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 3. It says, and as he sat upon the mountain of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Okay. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumor of wars. See that ye not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And so, yeah, we're seeing, Iran and Israel, having those, what do you want to call it? The rumblings of war, or the rumors of war, right? Because it's a buildup. Okay. But as scripture says, but the end is not yet, but scripture says, hey, it's even at the door, like literally you can hear commotion outside of your door, and that commotion, you can sense it getting closer and closer and closer. And that's exactly what's going on in accordance with prophecy. Okay. Let's jump down here to Matthew 24 and 12. It says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And that's exactly what we're seeing. We're all throughout the streets. We're getting the protests with the ICE, right? You got people getting detained. You got people, getting snatched up left and right. You've had over the course of years, brutality, from the centurions, right? The love of many is waxing cold. It's not going to take much when food shortages stop, okay, and these drug supplies stop. That there's not going to be all of this, inundation of love that has been promoted throughout the earth, man. Okay, verse 13. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And that word endure goes into suffering. Okay, because that's essentially what happens, having patience, okay, as prophecies are being fulfilled.
Strong's G 5278. Hupamano. Hupamano.
And it says patient suffering. Okay. It says to remain, to tarry behind, to persevere under misfortunes and trials, to hold fast to one's faith in Hamashiach Yahushua, to endure, okay, which we just said, okay, enduring to the end, to endure, bear bravely and calmly ill treatments. Okay? Because as scripture says, it's through much tribulation, okay, shall we enter into the kingdom of Yahweh Yahushua. This is Act chapter 14, verse 22, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith. Boom. We just read that. Okay. It said, to persevere under misfortunes and trials, to hold fast to one's faith. All right. It says, this is back in Act chapter 1. So like Act chapter 14, verse 22, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of Yahweh by Shem Yahushai. Okay. So when it says to endure, bear bravely and calmly ill treatments, that's exactly that's what's going to be necessary in order to endure. You're not enduring something of pleasure. You're enduring ill treatments. You got Jacob's trouble, right? You got martial law, right? You're going to have the persecution of the prophets. Okay. All of that's going to be ill treatment. But the question lies in who's going to be able to hold fast to their faith. Okay. Because that in itself will be the deciding element, okay, of endurance. It's faith. Okay. So this is Second Ezra chapter 9, and let's start at verse 1. It says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before through the scriptures, okay, because that was how we knew these things were coming, okay. He declared the end from the beginning. It says, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spoke of those things from the days that were before, even from the beginning. And matter of fact, I wanted to grab a precept. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 33. It says, so likewise ye, when ye shall see all of these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. And that was the point in which I was making earlier in this chapter, when it talks about, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure into the end, the same shall be saved. Okay. So this is back in 2nd Ezra chapter 9, verse 1. It says, and those are the things in which Yahushua has told us before. Okay. So back in verse 3, it says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spoke of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Okay. And that's what's happening, man. And even as you read throughout the rest of Second Ezra, the 9th chapter, it goes into all of those things that are going to happen, man. You know, but that's what's happening in accordance with prophecy. Okay, and I'll wrap up on this. This is 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 1. It says, "This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection," right? And as you look at the people through discernment, you can see all of these things happening. You know, everything in this society is flesh driven. Okay, covetous, boasters, proud, you know, unthankful, you know, entitled, you know, spoiled brats, kids, without natural affection, right? You know, everything that people love, quote unquote, is through technology. You know, it's an artificial world. All right. There's nothing natural about it. Okay. Everything that's natural, Esau is destroying and then making it chemical. He says, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of Yahweh, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. Okay. And that's all manifestations of the end. Okay. Because as scripture says, the love of many shall wax cold. We read that. Let's bring that up one more time. This is Matthew 24 verse 12. It says, "And because iniquity shall abound," and that iniquity basically went into everything we read here in one of the scenarios of the things in which we read here in 2 Timothy, the 3rd chapter. Okay. So it says that's the iniquity. It says, "And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold." And when you grab that word here, cold, let's see, wax cold, psycho.
Strong's G 5594. Psucho. Psucho.
Wanting love, growing cold. Okay. Because when something is wanting, okay, it's not waxing. Wanting means further away. Waxing means closer to. Okay. Wanting love. Let's get a quick description of this real quick, or definition. Wanting love refers to the gradual decreasing or fading of romantic love and affection over time within a relationship. The natural process where the initial intense passion or infatuation often gives way to a more stable but potentially less intensified feeling, attachment. Okay, and so point being here is all of that love that people once had for one another, it's gonna be gone, man. You know, when there's anarchy in the street, okay, and people haven't eaten, and Esau, the so-called white man, is being ousted by Yahweh, Yahushua, the prophets of the Lord are gaining spiritual power, right? And all of these things are happening. It's gonna be like that last clash of I believe the X-Men and Avengers movie, man. You know? Or as Elder Todd Pod says, it's gonna be the brawl for it all, you know? But we already know who has the victory, you know, and so it's just through prophecy that we continue to endure, you know, by utilizing the faith in which Yahweh Yahushua has given us, you know, and begging and pleading and praying to Yahweh Yahushua that he continues to increase our faith. So, Lord will, this lesson was edifying for the elect. Until next time, shalom.